Go off round here, you're likely to be in big trouble. Hello, good evening from our London studio. Britain's Alan McNish spent years trying to get a drive in Formula One. Toyota, harshly in my opinion, have decided to dispense with his services. On his farewell weekend, the Scot suffered what has to be the worst accident of the season. 35 minutes into qualifying, McNish loses control at the 170-mile-an-hour 130R, ranked alongside Eau Rouge at just about the quickest corner on the calendar. McNish, out of shape, in big trouble, smashes unseen backwards into the barrier. The Toyota's wrecked. So's the barrier. Happily, McNish limps away. His neck's aching, his knees bruised. Another triumph, though, for the safety regulations. When the session finally resumes, Michael Schumacher cements his position at the top of the charts. The 50th pole of his career, never in doubt. 131.3, his best in overtime.
Michael Schumacher, once again, takes pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix, pulverises the opposition, a true statement of intent.
David Coulthard has a fine session, roaring through that crucial middle sector. He's behind Schumacher until Rubens Barrichello ensures another all-red front row in the last couple of minutes. Takuma Sato, showing huge commitment after McNish's accident, qualifies his Jordan in the top 10 for the first time. Great for him and his huge Japanese fan club. But Montoya wrestles with the BMW Williams and he starts from the third row. So it's a record 5th successive Japanese pole for Schumacher, the 6th all-Ferrari front row of the season. Coulthard third ahead of Raikkonen, then the Williams pair, followed by the Jordans. Villeneuve recovering well from a big practice shunt. Button in the top 10 in his last Renault drive. Irvine starting 14th. Alan McNish, though, ruled out after a morning medical. 19 go then in the last race of the season before we say sayonara. Enjoy the best of the Japanese Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
The last car is in position. The safety car comes into position behind as well. Everything is ready now. Long hold. Now we've got some lights. The tension is building. Suzuka! Look at the Renaults diving out down the middle, and look at Raikkonen cutting across. David Coulthard right behind Rubens Barrichello and almost clips Ralf Schumacher. Fantastic start though by Michael Schumacher, and Coulthard away very well, but he couldn't make that start pay for him. Schumacher leads, Barrichello second, Coulthard third, fourth is Ralf Schumacher, who's got ahead of Kimi Raikkonen.
Yes, you're right, Coulthard got a better start than Barrichello, but Barrichello covered his line extremely well. Michael with that perfect start, much more grip on the outside of the racetrack here because it is the only racing line down that pit straight. And as you said, James, both Renaults immediately springing out into the action. Trulli up to 8th and Button up to 9th.
Yeah, well, Button out-qualified Trulli, which is interesting, so Trulli has got ahead once again at the start. Jenson Button clearly unhappy about that because you could see he was crawling all over the back of his teammate. Here they are coming into the frame now, the two yellow and blue Renaults. Schumacher leads then, Barrichello second, Coulthard third, Ralf Schumacher fourth, fifth is Kimi Raikkonen, sixth Juan Montoya, seventh still Takuma Sato, where he started on the grid, eighth Trulli, ninth Button, 10th Heidfeld, 11th Fisichella and 12th Jacques Villeneuve. The Toyota Salo is in 13th place with Eddie Irvine down in 15th.
Watch the start then. They all got away very well. You can see Fisichella slow off the line, the second of the yellow cars, and the two blue Renaults just surging through. And then you're on the offensive at that point. That's what helps you. You're moving forward and everybody else starts to have to look in their mirrors and move backwards. This is a replay of the Sato getting away, and Fisichella then poorly away in the middle of the pack in the spare car. Probably didn't have the clutch set up exactly as he would want it in terms of getting away, but of course he just presses a button to make most of it happen these days.
Whoa, big crash. Who's one of the Saubers? Who's that? Car 22, we believe it's cut. No, it's a different accident. Massa, in his last Grand Prix for Sauber, has thrown it into the barriers. And, well, he's been threatening to do that all weekend, Felipe Massa. And sadly for him, his final Grand Prix lasts just 4 laps.
down there at turns 8 and 9. So where is that second Degner? Is it, James? Somewhere down there?
Degner 1, I think, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.
If it's Degner 1, it's unusual to go straight on at that. So it's more likely he got out of shape in 1 and lost it into the barrier of 2, as Montoya did. So quite clearly, Massa out of the race.
Yes, we've had a few cars off there this weekend. They lose it in Degner 1. As you can see, that's Degner 1 at the top. He's lost it there. It's exactly what Montoya did on Friday.
Yes, he jams on the brakes, tries to turn the car, didn't do that as nicely as Montoya, but you commit so much to Degner 1. If you just clip the curb on the inside, makes the car start bouncing and hopping, and then you just cannot turn in enough after that, and once you're on the gravel, you've really got no grip whatsoever, and the car's in the air, and you're going straight to the scene of the accident. Massa then, and that's a long way from home to an difficult journey back home. And have we got a BAR cruising into the pits? That looked like Panis, didn't it? He's slow. There is a pit lane entry here now, and he does not take to it, but he's going very slowly.
Yep, Olivier Panis was down in 16th place. He's dropped down to 18th. He's looking down into the cockpit for some reason, crosses the start-finish line very slowly indeed. He's 11 seconds off the pace in that lap, so clearly something has happened to Olivier Panis on his final drive for the British American racing team, because he will be joining Toyota next year on a 2-year deal, replacing Mika Salo.
Yes, and the 2 Ferraris then lapping over a second a lap faster than 3rd and 4th place men, Coulthard and Ralf Schumacher. Coulthard's built a 2.2 second gap to Ralf Schumacher in 4th. There's a car coming down the pit lane. It's Panis into the pits. They'll try and change that car. It obviously shouldn't necessarily be a terminal problem. Whether they can change the steering wheel or recharge the hydraulic system or whatever the failure is, they've switched it off, obviously, otherwise it'll overheat while they're investigating the problem.
So Olivier Panis in the pits. It's a 53-lap Grand Prix, and we've got a McLaren slowing down. It's David Coulthard. David Coulthard running in 3rd place has got problems, and this is great news for Sato. He's up in the points now already, and Eddie Jordan will be rubbing his hands with glee, but Ron Dennis, the boss of the McLaren team, will be very frustrated by this, because McLaren were looking to really get some points here this afternoon after a very strong performance in qualifying, particularly by David Coulthard, who looks as though he's retiring from the Japanese Grand Prix. Well, he's been on the podium here the last 3 years, but he isn't going to do it this weekend. This is lap 8, and Coulthard looks like he's out.
Yes, it's misfiring badly. He very nervously going through 130R there. He knows just how fast the cars come upon you. Managed to stay completely out of the racing line, and arm way up in the air saying, look out for me, as he's obliged to do under the regulations. Coulthard, will he drive straight in the garage, or will he drive into his pit garage, his normal pit stop area? Ted?
Martin, yes, he does drive straight into the garage. Disappointment then for David Coulthard. He was looking so good this weekend. Part of the reason, I can tell you actually, he was saying yesterday, was that he started left foot braking for the very first time in his career through the S's, and he says he's found so much speed in there. A very rare mechanical breakdown then for David Coulthard. He's out the car now, out of the race.
Well, he's got reason to be pleased with his season's work, I think, David Coulthard, given that the car wasn't as competitive as he really had hoped it would be versus the Ferrari. He's done a solid job this year, got plenty of solid point scoring positions, and won the Monaco Grand Prix, of course, memorably. So he can be reasonably happy with his season's work. He's going off for a holiday to Thailand now after this, and then he's going to start serious testing as Panis rolls in to retire as well. So already we have 3 retirements from this Grand Prix. Felipe Massa has crashed, and Panis and Coulthard both out of the race.
Yes, they'll have a look at the back. They can work on that car of Panis's and put him back into the Grand Prix. I would imagine that Coulthard's problem, I'm sure we'll hear from the F1 ITV pit group, but I would imagine Coulthard's problem is engine. Maybe the team won't say, but he's in the way that he just immediately drove into the pit garage, and therefore realising it wasn't a simple problem, the electronics or fuel pressure or something like that. But Coulthard then, along with Ralf Schumacher, the only 2 men that have not driving a Ferrari this year that have managed to win a Grand Prix.
Yes, indeed. This is the scrap we were talking about between Sato, Trulli and Button. 2 Renaults and the Jordan in front of them. And, well, the 2 Renaults are pretty safe in 4th place in the championship. That position already consolidated. They cannot be overtaken here this weekend, but that doesn't mean they don't want some points, particularly Jarno Trulli, who's had some very, very strong runs recently, Monza and Indianapolis, driving through to the points. and he will be very, very keen to get ahead of Takuma Sato. But young Japanese driver who's had a pretty dry season generally, very, very little to show for his maiden year in Formula One. No points yet. He'll be hanging on for grim death. Looking there at a replay of the Minardi there of Alex Young, who would have got himself in front of Mark Webber from the looks of things.
That was quite early on in the race. That was back, yes, car 22. In fact, that's the second time he's spun in the race, has Alex Young. And Webber too. Webber's been off the track, so both Minardis have had a spin. So Trulli then down into the pits in the Renault at the end of lap 15. Trulli pitting then. And Sato carries on, of course. There he comes into the box. I tell you, it's so scary when they come in there. It's very, very fast if you stand anywhere. They're so brave, the mechanics. They just form a human garage and wait for this boiling hot missile to come at them and then work on it and get them out again so quickly. Tremendous teamwork going on there. 22 people working as one.
Well, the last two Grand Prix, we've seen the Renault team do something very different with race strategy for Jarno Trulli. They brought him in out of sequence with the other cars, and on both occasions it's worked for them. And I just wonder, because they've been lapping behind Sato around about 2 seconds off the pace of the front runners, and one would imagine that they feel they can go a little bit faster than that. So clearly they've decided to do it again, put Trulli out of sequence. We will see. This is lap 16 of the 53-lap Japanese Grand Prix. The gap between Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello now 5.7 seconds, and it's now down to Jenson Button to do something about Takuma Sato all on his own.
Yeah, Michael's having a grin now because it's up to 6.4 as Barrichello just crossed the line. And that's 7/10 a lap he's now taking out of Rubens. Rubens pegged him back. Those 2 laps we talked about where Rubens was clearly faster for 2 consecutive laps. Since then, Michael's just smashed the record. Down to 1:36.3 then already. And Michael said, OK, I'm not having you coming back at me. I'll go again. And he's ringing it out a little bit now. He's nearer the curbs than Rubens is. And Michael just maxing out that Ferrari, and he wants to prove a point this afternoon.
Yes, he does, and it's a point well made. It's a point emphatically made many times this season. Well, if Renault are switching the strategy, they're doing it for both their drivers, very even-handed. Jenson Button on his last outing for the Renault team before he joins British American Racing next year. Comes into the pits for his first of maybe 2, maybe 3 stops this afternoon. On board, though, with the Jordan Honda of Takuma Sato.
David, I understand it was a throttle actuator problem, is that correct?
Well, it's obviously very early to say, but it could be anything from the electronics that connect the actuator to a physical problem with that itself. But you know, I had some throttle, which was a sort of default setting, which is why I was able to drive back, but obviously I lost control.
But not something that the team could correct quick enough to get you out again?
No, definitely not. No, it's if it's electronic, then it's down below the top body, and if it's more than that, then well, it's game over for the engine. So it's disappointing. Naturally, I would love to be able to finish the season, and I felt quite strong there. Was opening up the gap to the guys behind, and you know, it's early days to know whether Ferrari are on a 3-stop or not, but if they are, then our strategy shows that we could maybe sneak in front of Rubens, because he wasn't going away quick enough, so maybe he's into it. But I've had pretty good reliability this year, so I guess I can't complain too much.
Michael Schumacher leads then by 6.9 seconds. Last time around, Barrichello was 1/10 faster. They're both lapping in the low 1:36s. In the mid, 1:37s. Ralf Schumacher third, Kimi Räikkönen fourth. Montoya in the late 1:37s in fifth, some 10 seconds behind Räikkönen, having a poor afternoon. Sato 16 seconds back from Montoya in 6th place. The final points position, 7th place man Heidfeld pits, as does 9th place man Villeneuve. So they're all coming in for scheduled stops. There they are, the Sauber of Heidfeld and the BAR of Villeneuve. They were 4 seconds apart when they were out on the racetrack, and it does seem as if Villeneuve was a bit tidier on his in-lap. Who can get out first? It should easily be Heidfeld.
It should. Villeneuve seemed to be struggling to get the thing into the box. He was tweaking it quite a lot, and time just evaporating away for the BAR team, and Heidfeld comfortably out in front of the 97 world champion. Michael Schumacher, well, he pitted very early last year. Started off with a lighter fuel load to make sure he could make the breakaway from Juan Montoya, who was challenging him. This time it's his own teammate challenging him, but once again he's the one who makes the first stop. Michael Schumacher then in on lap 21, and Ted is down there.
Yes, James, we heard David Coulthard almost wishing that the Ferraris were on 3 stops. No such luck, I'm afraid. 8.7 seconds Michael Schumacher is targeting. He'll be taking on about 54 kilos of fuel. He's away for a decent stop. 9.4, slightly long.
Yeah, it's not that special. And crucially, how does it always fall into his lap? Because it's designed to do so, because they make those stops and they think about where he will feed out onto the racetrack. But crucially, he gets out in front of his brother and Kimi Raikkonen, who are fighting over 3rd and 4th place, so he will not get held up on his outlap. It always falls beautifully, doesn't it?
And as the Jordan team get ready for presumably Sato, because he's got Fisichella right behind him, but he's the leading Jordan at the moment. That's a big feather in the cap of Luca Baldesseri, who's the formerly Michael Schumacher's race engineer, who's now taken over calling the strategies. Fisichella, though, it is for Jordan coming in first, so the second placed of their driver is making the first of the stops. Fisichella in. I mentioned before that Ross Brawn is not here, the Ferrari technical director, so it's Baldesseri that's calling the strategies this afternoon. A big moment for him with the big man not around. Pretty tidy stuff from the Jordan team, though.
Yes, the team did well. Fisichella a bit tardy in dropping the clutch and getting away. Here's Rubens Barrichello. He's done a very fast middle sector as he takes to the pit lane, fastest of anybody this afternoon. So Barrichello really getting on it. He wants to, he knows that even if he finishes second today, if he wants to keep his reputation as high as it's become this season, he needs to keep Michael very much in sight.
Well, he needs the Ferrari team to do a similar job for him to that which they did for Michael Schumacher just a moment ago. Where's he going to feed out into the equation? It's going to be very difficult for him to get out in front of Ralf Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. No such luxury, because he was 5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, so that means he's almost certainly going to be behind the duo. There they go. So Barrichello behind them, but of course they still have to make their stops as well.
Yes, we've got to assume it's quite soon, but I don't think they will interfere with Barrichello being that little bit behind Michael that he was, but they didn't stop the clock properly on Rubens Barrichello, so I don't think he was as long as 9.8 seconds, but it was a similar time as Sato pits from 6th place.
Now the crucial thing here is the line, the white line there. Once he crosses that, he's not allowed to go any more than 80 kilometers an hour.
50 miles an hour,
50
yes.
miles an hour. It seems so slow, I imagine, when you've been out there racing at 170, 180 mile an hour speeds. This is a crucial stop here for the Japanese driver.
It's a tricky one. You've got to just sit there, hold the steering wheel straight as he's doing. Don't rev the engine too much because it rocks the car. And away goes, a perfect stop for Sato and the Jordan team.
And the 2 Renaults have just flashed past our position. There they are. Is he going to lose position to the Renaults? Well, he's certainly lost out to one of them. And is that another Renault at the top of the frame? I think it probably was. Jarno Trulli has gone through, Jenson Button and Sato has rejoined, we believe, down in 9th place.
But the flags are waving in the crowd. A big support here for Takuma Sato in the Jordan Honda. And I still got a feeling the Renaults are on a different and not such good strategy as this Jordan team. And the tyre changes are all done, then hands are up in the air, back off it goes. No problem at all for Raikkonen, but not particularly fast. A lot of fuel went in there, James.
Yes, a lot of fuel went in there from the looks of things. So maybe McLaren are switching the strategy as well. Clearly they realise there's not much they can do this afternoon about the pace of the Ferraris. Nothing new in that story this season. We've got one of the 2 Williamses in the pit lane. It's Ralf Schumacher who's coming in. So from 2nd position, this will give 2nd position back to Rubens Barrichello. Tech.
This one's going to be so tight, James. If Ralf can try and get out in front of Kimi Raikkonen, then as you say, that final podium position is more or less cut and dried. But it's a shortish stop. He should make it with this one. Where's Raikkonen?
Yes, I think he should make it, Ted. But of course, we've got another stop to go. Yeah, Raikkonen is coming, but Ralf cleared the white line just. No problem there. You can really build up speed quite quickly out of the pit lane here. So Kimi Raikkonen will not be that surprised to see Ralf Schumacher coming out of the pits in front of him.
Into the pits comes Juan Montoya. Credited as being 3rd there on your graphic. He is in fact 4th. And he will drop back down into 6th place. He has to get out in front of Jarno Trulli, who is circulating in the Renault. Should do that reasonably comfortably. Not been a spectacular weekend really for Juan Montoya. He was wonderful here last year, qualified on the front row, drove brilliantly to finish second behind Michael Schumacher. But this year, somehow he's just got himself into a little bit of a dip as the season's come to a conclusion. This is Jacques Villeneuve and Giancarlo Fisichella. They have just joined battle, and this is the scrap for 11th place Fisichella, 12th Villeneuve. Takuma Sato, the teammate of Fisichella, is still up in 8th place, having lost out in the first round of pit stops to the two Renaults. And, well, that battle's very strong between these two teams, Jordan and British American Racing. As things stand, BAR are 7th, Jordan 8th in the Constructors' Championship. If Sato or Fisichella could score a point here this afternoon, they would leapfrog the BAR team. If they can score 2 points, they'd leapfrog Jaguar. And there's an awful lot to riding between the two of them. You can see Villeneuve desperately trying to do something under braking, but no such luck.
Yes, he was more trying to frighten Fisichella off the road, I think. There, it wasn't a genuine overtaking manoeuvre. It was just trying to annoy him and distract him in the hope, because Villeneuve started coming back across the track even before he got anywhere near turning into the corner. He was really just trying to get Fisichella driving his mirrors instead of looking out the front of the car. But you're looking at a £2 million battle this afternoon between Jordan and BAR. Jordan having scored 19 points by this stage last season, just 7 on the board this season. BAR also have 7, but as you say, because of the count back on other positions, it's BAR that will take that position and get a lot more share of the television money, travel money, and freight money, and all the stuff that comes in through the Concord Agreement for next season. And it's crucial for the teams, and that's why it's pretty frantic in the middle of the field.
That's how valuable that third place of Eddie Irvine's at Monza was, a podium position. Villeneuve, but you see that Fisichella's cut the chicane.
He might be penalised for that. Fisichella may be penalised, but that's exactly what Villeneuve's been trying to achieve, is just get Fisichella rattled, and Fisichella may be asked to let him past or take a drive-through penalty.
Well, the general rule is if you gain an advantage by cutting the chicane, then you get some sort of penalty, and really they're still in the same position and the margin is really not much increased.
Villeneuve much quicker at a 130R, but nowhere near close enough to really have a stab up the inside, because that will end in tears.
All part of the edginess which has characterised this weekend as Villeneuve's Honda engine lets go out of the chicane. That's the end of that battle, Martin. No question at all. Jacques Villeneuve really lining up Fisichella, and unfortunately the rear end of his car didn't want to play the game anymore.
That was a big blow again, wasn't it? We've seen that so often. I mean, it just locked the back wheels up straight away. I would imagine then the anti-stall may have cut in and released the clutch, which is why suddenly it started to freewheel again. And Villeneuve will not be impressed with that. That's happened just too many times recently.
Second British American Racing retirement of the Grand Prix. Olivier Panis out earlier on with what we believe was a gearbox problem. He retired on lap 6. And here's another look at how it happened. I wonder if there's any oil gone down.
If there is, it's out of the traction zone, so it won't be a problem. But look, bang, there he goes. Now watch his back wheels lock up as he sort of slews sideways, and then it'll just freewheel after that as the clutch pulls in, or in fact maybe just on the grass the rear wheels are able to skid along. But that is on the right bank of the V10, quite clearly a major structural failure inside there.
Lap 32 of the Japanese Grand Prix, the final showdown of the 2002 season. Michael Schumacher leading Rubens Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher third, Kimi Raikkonen fourth, Montoya still fifth, Trulli still sixth with his teammate Button seventh. Eighth is Takuma Sato, keeping the two Renaults honest. And it's very interesting to see what strategy-wise they're doing versus the Jordan. Heidfeld 9th and Sarlo in 10th place. And Louise has some news for us in the pit lane.
Jacques Villeneuve just made his way back to the pit lane. Jack, disappointing end to the race, obviously an engine problem.
Yeah, disappointing. The car was very fast in the race, but as usual our starts are useless. And even though I got going better than the guys around me, than Fisichella and Sato, after a few meters the car just didn't go anywhere. Lost some position, and that would have cost us the race anyway.
You say as usual, obviously this is a problem you've had for a while, you feel should have been corrected.
Well, I was hoping it would be corrected. Obviously it's very difficult to correct.
Were you enjoying the battle with Fisichella?
Yeah, but you know, Fisichella is a very tough guy to overtake because his car is wider than the track. So with a few more laps, we probably would have both ended up going off because as soon as I got close to him, he crossed the chicane anyway. Which is what he did when I was racing with him last time. So it's not very fair racing, but that's the way it is.
Thanks, Jack.
He's a happy bunny, isn't he? And it's unusual to hear a driver come in and say it was useless. Normally come in, but it seems to me, he's got well wide at the back end there, lost the back end on the way and under braking. The nose goes down, the back comes up higher. As the speed bleeds off, the car comes even higher as your aero load disappears, and then you start pumping down the gearbox. And that is what locks the back wheels up. Button is in the pits. Again, that's quite early. It's still effectively on a 3-stopper. And I wonder if they'll just really heavily fuel that now. And he only just got away with that. The refueler didn't come out initially, and Jensen was on his way slightly too early. But they'll have to have a long stop because I think they were short-fueled, and that may play back into Jordan's hands. But Sato's got to get on with it. He's lapping too slowly to punish the Renaults at the moment. And Raikkonen just very luckily getting away with that. Does he get away with the second Degner? Clearly does. Didn't see any bits flying off it, but that was just a little lapse of concentration. And there goes Jarno Trulli, isn't it? Yep. Jarno Trulli out of the Grand Prix from 6th place.
So Trulli, before he even got a chance to make a pit stop, is out of the race. Jenson Button has had a delay on his stop. This is great news for Jordan and great news for Takuma Sato. Well, last time round, Jenson Button made his first stop on lap 17 and Sato on lap 22. So 5 laps apart they did it. Will it be the same story? Sato, does he have 5 laps now in which to build on this margin while his car is light and Jenson Button's car is heavy with fuel in order to get himself back in front and get himself in the points?
Yes, I'm wondering if Trulli ran out of gas on the way, and he stopped the lap before Jenson Button last time around, and it's the lap after. His mechanics, I'm hearing from our pit crew, were out in the pit lane, were expecting Jarno Trulli. Just a guess, I wonder if he was out of gas.
This is an important stop then. Takuma Sato into the pits for his second pit stop of the afternoon. And can he get out in front of Jenson Button? That is the crucial question. Has he done enough?
Seems to be going well. And a great stop then for Jordan. Just over 8 seconds. Everything working to plan. But where then is Jenson Button? Tightening his seatbelt, speed limiter off. Getting dangerously close to that white line, James, from this high-level view, and there's Button.
Yeah, Button is behind him, so Sato has done enough in that period to get back out in front of the Renault driver, and the whole of Suzuka is on its feet. Meanwhile, second place, Rubens Barrichello. Well, second place on aggregate because, of course, Ralf Schumacher has yet to make his stop. He will do that shortly. Rubens Barrichello comes out, and that's Kimi Raikkonen, I think, at the top of the frame. Indeed it is. He too has yet to make his second stop, so pretty comfortable for Ferrari at the moment.
Yes, I'd like to see a replay of Sato coming out of the pits from the high view. He got very close to that white line. In fact, here we go. And there, to his left-hand side, does he cross the line? Nowhere near it. So a better view then from the front camera, and Jenson Button then some way behind. We're hearing there's a Jordan out of the race. It is Fisichella. There it is. Fisichella blows up in a big way. And, well, he was down in 10th place.
Well, this is the second time this afternoon that Giancarlo Fisichella has had a failure on his Jordan Honda, because on the parade laps going out to the grid, he had to park the race car. This was the spare car he was racing. And after the blow-up of Jacques Villeneuve, that's a real wake-up for Takuma Sato. He's going to have to be very careful for the rest of this Grand Prix, and hope he can nurse the car home as Ralf Schumacher pits from 3rd place, racing against Kimi Raikkonen this afternoon. And I think he's probably going to be pretty comfortably out in front of the young Finnish driver.
Yes, Raikkonen had that little trip across the gravel. He'd fallen 10 seconds behind Ralf. Ralf actually pitted from 2nd, but it is a net 3rd place when he gets back out onto the racetrack, because Rubens Barrichello had already stopped twice. So give it another lap and it'll really shake out. The Ferrari mechanics can start packing the rig away, can't they? They've done their job for the year, and most of the teams can, but they'll have to be waiting for it's a lot of blue smoke. We've got to assume that's from Fisichella's car. Yes, indeed it is, as the sister Jordan passes by. There's a timely reminder for Sato to maybe knock the revs back a little bit. He's the sole remaining Honda runner this afternoon, and let's hope he keeps going.
Well, he can't afford to knock the revs back too much because he's got a very hungry Jenson Button in his wheel tracks. 3.2 seconds the margin between Sato and Button. That's the battle for 6th place here this afternoon. And Jenson Button moving over to British American Racing, ironically, with Honda engines next year. Look at the crowd and how very PR that they've all carrying Honda flags.
Yes,
I wonder if they're employees, Martin. What do you think?
Well, the circuit's owned by Honda, of course, but nonetheless, they're still waving them very energetically because they want to. Just shows you how important it is for each country to have strong drivers out there to really motivate the fans to follow the sport and follow the technology, follow the manufacturers. And Sato's just brought this place alive this afternoon.
He certainly has, all weekend, really. They have an infectious enthusiasm, the Japanese, for motor racing. A lot of them are very, very knowledgeable, racing a big deal here as Juan Montoya pits from what's been a particularly lonely afternoon for him. He is aggregate 5th place. He was pitting from 4th because his teammate Ralf Schumacher had been in just before, but Ralf will be safely through, and that will drop Montoya back into 5th place. But I love the way that the Japanese appreciate their Formula One racing. They're very, it's a culture based on politeness. They wave their little flags. They're extremely polite and courteous people, generally. And it's very interesting to see the difference between them and the Germans and the Italians, and indeed our own British fans at Silverstone, how they appreciate the spectacle of Grand Prix racing when it comes to town.
Yes, indeed they do. 12 runners then in this Grand Prix. Fisichella we've just seen blown up. Truly, engine failure. No, we think he ran out of gas. Villeneuve, big engine failure. Jung had 4 spins, the 4th of which caught him out when he finally went into the gravel. They're getting ready for Raikkonen's pit stop there. You can see the sole remaining McLaren. Panis out with some kind of... And the Della Rosa looks like he's out of the Grand Prix. Now we're down to 11 runners. Panis out with a technical problem. They weren't sure what. Coulthard, some kind of throttle pot problem. Massa crashed into the barrier. And that's your retirees. And here then is Raikkonen for his 2nd scheduled stop of the afternoon.
This will drop him back into 4th place. And Ralf Schumacher and Juan Montoya are ahead of him. Will he get out in front of Montoya? He certainly should do. But we will see. Montoya was bearing down on the chicane. Here he is. You can hear that Raikkonen drops the clutch. Should be pretty comfortable for him. As long as he doesn't cut that white line, he's home free.
Yes, there's Montoya in the background, Raikkonen in the foreground. So that was easy, wasn't it? And Michael Schumacher's lead now down to 10.9 seconds.
He's not smiling much, is he? Even though he's adorned like a Christmas tree. Give him oh, hang on a second. Sato might get more than he's bargaining for. Ralf Schumacher's out of the race. Sato all of a sudden is on for 2 points. That would get them ahead of the Jaguar team. You see the engineer there, there's 2 fingers, absolutely. Churchill would have been proud of you. 2 points around the corner for the Jordan team.
And good news for the Brits. Jenson Button then into a point-scoring position. Kimi Raikkonen just had a very slow lap. He was 4th. But some 5 seconds off the pace was Kimi Raikkonen. Either he made a mistake or he's got a problem. So all of a sudden, in the closing stage of this Grand Prix, Ferraris seem peerless as ever, but plenty of drama going on behind. And Sato up into 5th position. Anyway, Michael Schumacher, 10.5 seconds ahead. It's almost irrelevant, really. He's coasting now, some 3 seconds per lap off of his ultimate pace. That's Salo, the only Toyota to start this race after McNish's non-start because the doctors said he wasn't up to it. I get the impression Alan really absolutely felt he could drive this race today, no problem. But there you go. That's what they said to him. They wouldn't give him permission. Salo is running around in 8th place, 6.9 seconds behind 7th place man Heidfeld, as Michael Schumacher moves into the final lap when surely he'll break another record for his 11th win of the season, which is an all-time top number of Grand Prix wins per season, beating himself, of course.
Yes, and Nigel Mansell on 9, so putting some records down that will be difficult to beat. After an eventful day, I guess, driver of the day, you're going to be generous and give it to Takuma Sato? Go on, you devil.
I mean, No.
Yes, he does.
No,
yes, he does.
No, it's Michael Schumacher. You've got to give it to Michael Schumacher. He's been peerless. He's just been supreme. Sato's done a solid job and kept it on the road and done a very good job, but I can't give him driver of the day. Sorry.
I wonder what he'd have done if he was driving a Ferrari this afternoon. Final lap then, and the final lap of the 2002 Formula One season. Just a few more corners to go for the man who has literally rewritten the record books here this season. Ferrari came out with last year's car. First 2 Grand Prix of the year, they were beaten in Malaysia, and it hastened the arrival of the F2002, which is the car Michael Schumacher is sitting in at the moment. Since then, the car has been virtually untouchable. Only David Coulthard has managed to beat it, and that was at Monaco. It's an exceptional piece of kit, and the man behind the wheel has been truly exceptional this year. For the 5th time, he exits the chicane to win the Japanese Grand Prix. He has really bought and paid for this track. It's his, and so has this season been. Michael Schumacher wins the Japanese Grand Prix ahead of teammate Rubens Barrichello. No funny business over the start-finish line this time. He takes the win that he richly deserves. He virtually stops to congratulate his team. Without Ross Brawn here this weekend, they didn't miss a beat. Luca Baldessari has taken over as technical boss here, and he's seen the 2 cars safely home to yet another 1-2. And here comes Kimi Raikkonen to get the remaining podium position, his 3rd podium of the season, Martin.
Yes, indeed. Good run from Raikkonen. Crucially, Button did not pass the Ferrari, so Sato's guaranteed 5th place. Button, I think, could have passed the Ferraris as they were waiting for their formation there and had a chance at passing this guy on the last lap, but he's still very much on track at Spoon. He's got 1:30R. He just wants to coast home now, and so he remains on the lead lap in the top 5, and he cannot be passed.
Wonderful, wonderful news. Eddie Jordan will know that. Takuma Sato will know that. We're on board with Japan's hero for the day, Takuma Sato. True bravery he showed yesterday in qualifying. In difficult circumstances, he managed to get himself up into 7th on the grid. He exits the chicane. The flags are waving. The Japanese crowd beneath us are going absolutely bonkers. A great story, a great story for Takuma Sato. Yes, son, you've done it. Fabulous. 2 points for 5th place, and a really big payday for the Jordan team. And, well, Japan's back in business as a Grand Prix nation.
And so the story of the season concludes with Chapter 17 at Suzuka. Absolute perfection from Ferrari. We'll be right back with Tony Jardine's views. We'll hear from the top 3 and Takuma Sato, the pride of Japan. So then the last race of the season has ended in Ferrari's 9th 1-2 in their all-conquering year. Michael Schumacher's 5th victory in Japan, number 64 of his incredible career. The Brazilian Barrichello supporting him superbly. Raikkonen on the podium as well. Montoya 4th, a low-key finale that for the Colombian. The departing Button 6th for Renault. But Takuma Sato, his first ever points on his home track as well.
Takuma, you said to me that your qualifying result felt like winning the race. So what's this one like?
Just unbelievable. I mean, fans are exciting so much, and they are waving, all 50 laps, and I could see everything, and it was concentrate, and really appreciate what the team done. The strategy working superbly, and the tire working very good. Engine was very reliable, so everything was perfect today.
It was good, not just for the team, but particularly good for Taku. A lot of people have said several things that may have been not quite true, but he displayed huge talent all this weekend. His qualifying was impeccable, and if you were to look and analyse his race performance, it was so consistent, so strong. Made a call in the beginning that it was understeering. The engineers changed and gave him a little bit more front wing, and the car got quicker. So he's right on the money here this weekend. He really knows what's happening, and that's fantastic for him.
It has been very nice, yes, because I felt after Indy I'm even and square, and I can just look for the event itself without considering anything, and that's what I did. And superb way to finish the season for many reasons. For Bridgestone getting their 70th win in 100 Grand Prix, to have another podium finish and a finish overall, which is quite outstanding in a year. And I love the circuit, and for me, it's a perfect way to finish a season and go on holiday.
Rubens, another amazing performance by this Ferrari car, but was Michael more or less untouchable today?
No, I think he did a fantastic job, and the car was running quite well. But it was just a case of the first 3 laps where the car was touching, and he could go away a little bit. But as I said, we were close, but he was in front, and there was never a way to get ahead, because we were setting times where he was like 1 or 2 tenths faster, so it was difficult.
Well done, Kimi. You began the season with a podium, and now you're ending it with a podium as well.
Yeah, it's good to finish the season on podium. Of course, the win would have been more nice, but no, it was okay.
Slightly lucky result at the end of the day?
Yeah, but if I'm lucky once a year, I think so, it's quite fair.
Ralph, I guess ultimately a very disappointing day for you.
Definitely was. After a relatively strong race, I'd say, where I almost finished third, I had an engine failure. Well, it's the way it is, it's racing.
Did you have any concerns about the engine during the race, or was it a sudden thing?
No, it was a very sudden failure.
Well done, Jensen. 1 point, a really good way to leave Renault.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's good to get in the points. It's been a few races that haven't been in the points towards the end of the season, so yeah, it's pretty nice to be back in the points.
144 points for Michael Schumacher. That is another record. Barrichello on 67 points, by the way, the biggest ever gap at the top of the championship. Montoya makes his 50. Ralf Schumacher on 42. David Coulthard, the best Brit, on 41. Kimi Räikkönen ending up with 24. And 14 points for Jenson Button. That makes it his best ever season. In the Constructors, 221 for Ferrari, another record, breaking McLaren's 199 back in 1988. Williams and McLaren both with a lot of thinking to do to bridge that gap in the winter. Renault 4th in their debut season. Sauber dropped from last season down to 5th. Jordan, they drop a place as well to 6th. Jaguar up 1 to 7th. BAR go down 2, and Minardi, Toyota and Arrows all end up with a couple of points. Tony, best story of the day, one of the best of the season, in fact, Takuma Sato getting off the mark over there in Japan on home ground.
You know what's fabulous for this young man is that he's been away for 5 years. He was a very late starter and he won a scholarship here through the Suzuka School, but he's hardly raced here in Japan. He's raced in Europe, he's raced abroad, he's won the British Formula 3 Championship. So that means so much more to him, and these 140,000 people here at Suzuka paying homage to this new young hero. Tremendous support from Honda and from Eddie Jordan, who believed in him for this year.
Enough to keep him in Formula 1?
Enough to keep him in Formula 1. Whether it's in the Jordan team or not, one does not know, because they're changing allegiance to Ford.
With the 2 Ferraris away and gone, we had to look down the field for some of the best racing, and Fisichella and Villeneuve had a good little dice before Villeneuve blew up.
It was for 11th place, and there's been a major effort by both teams, chassis aerodynamics, but of course Honda, they had Suzuka special engines, but the special engine here from Honda let go, and the transmission seized up there, causing Villeneuve to snake away. But we've seen tremendous improvements from both teams. But the Honda, of course, they're pushing out the corners of the envelope. A lot of development for 2003 there, going up in smoke, but it's happened to other engine manufacturers.
Yeah, talk about breakdowns. Kimi Räikkönen has had more than his share throughout the season. Delighted to see him up on the podium.
But this is this exceptional talent, where Montoya crashed at that same place Degner won on Friday, went off into the second box, slammed into the barrier. Somehow Räikkönen got away with it as he scraped across the oil in France and managed second place.
What do you make of Williams' performance over the weekend?
Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Montoya, for example, has dropped off in the last 3 or 4 races. He made mistakes in Indianapolis. He pitted too early. He couldn't get the handling right here at Suzuka. And then Ralph, of course, who was running quite strongly and then got up into 3rd place. BMW have had their share of problems. The engine, we think, has blown up. Werner Lawrence has left. And this was a great moment for Jordan. They went from 6th to 5th. That's 2 points, and up in the Constructors' Championship as well. What joy for them.
Means a lot of pounds, that, doesn't it? That little jump up in the Constructors. We don't quite know how many, but it's plenty.
It is a lot of money. It's very, very worthwhile in travel money, television money, bonus money. It means a lot to the finances of the team.
We've ended our programmes before, our highlight show, looking at Ferrari, looking at Michael Schumacher, and it was almost inevitable that we'd have to do it again, Tony.
Yeah, there's no point going on about the records at this point. Let's just say that through all the sheer hard work and the continuity of the team, you've got to think about the heartbreak that they've suffered. Schumacher here, you know, in '98, when he stalled on the line, when he was challenging Hakkinen, then had a puncture. It's taken a long, long time, over 6 years, to get this team into this winning state. And now they've thrown down the gauntlet, you know, for the second year in succession. So come on.
There's a feeling it will be closer next season.
It will be closer next season, but Williams and McLaren are right now working on revolutionary designs, and that's what's going to have to take.
Everyone heads for a bit of a holiday now, though, but not you, Tony. You and Mark Blundell involved in a bit of racing yourselves.
Well, Network Q Rally, the World Championship Rally coming up, and hopefully we'll have our entries confirmed in the MG squad for this year, so we'll be racing together. Yeah, it'll be good.
Good, Tony. Thanks for all your contributions throughout the season, as always. Thanks a lot. Well, the ITV F1 website, that certainly doesn't close down during the winter. And Eddie Jordan, what a happy fella he is going to be, is live. You can chat to him on the website this Wednesday at lunchtime. So there we are, 100 up for those of us who have been covering Formula One on ITV since Melbourne back in 1997. Thanks very much for your company in all that time. We have to say hats off really to the Ferrari team, don't we? To Michael Schumacher, to Rubens Barrichello, and to the whole team there, the class of the field once again in 2002. Thanks very much indeed for your company. Good night, you all.